This morning, before I start, I just want to let you know, we're going to be looking at 4 different passages of Scripture. Now, they will be up on the screens, but I'm kind of an old school guy, so if you want to grab a Bible and you want to actually open up a Bible, I would love that. This morning, we are going to continue with our Shape series. We have actually started with the S and the H. The S was spiritual gifts, and the H was your heart or your passion. Today, we are going to look at the A, which stands for abilities. Now, this morning, I want to convey 2 things to you. First of all, I want you to come away from this understanding that you do have abilities, and that you have abilities that are able to be used in church. Now, I don't want you to get confused, and these are not spiritual gifts. Spiritual gifts are what you were given by God after you become a Christian. Abilities are the things that you're born with. Like, some people have a natural ability to play basketball, and they get to make a lot of money. Some people have a natural ability to mess with numbers. I was not born with that. Some people have a natural ability to make money. Wasn't born with that one either. But we all have abilities, and all of those abilities we can use for service of our Lord and King. The second thing I want you to realize is that I'm going to take this thing off and chuck it across the room. You have no excuses to not use your abilities to serve God. Aaron, can you come up here for a minute? I'm going to give you a little demonstration on abilities. I'm going to have Aaron get down on his knees. Yeah, just do it right. And you guys know what this is? This is a samurai sword. This is a bag of tea. Now, we're going to put that on the top of Aaron's head. I'm going to spin around about 10-15 times, and then just to make things more interesting, after I take the sword out, I'm going to have Aaron go like this. And then I'm going to close my eyes, and I'm going to chop this off the top of his head. First of all, shame on all of you. Not one person here said, "Don't you dare to." Oh, you did, okay. What is wrong with you people? Okay, Sarah.
We want to see blood.
Yeah, I am definitely not going to do that for 2 reasons. First, and most importantly, is I'm scared of his mother. Secondly, is I do not have the ability to do that. Now, there are probably people who have trained with samurai swords for years and years and years who have the ability to do that. I own a samurai sword. That does not mean that I have the ability to do those kinds of things. We're going to watch a little video. Everybody has abilities, like I said, and guys are going to know this more so than girls. There is actually one ability that guys, you lose after you get married, and that is the ability to drive a car without help.
I love marriage. Marriage, yeah, is awesome. It's so beneficial. So many benefits for a guy when you get married. Like when you get married, you're a guy, you get a little helper in the car. I love my little helper in the car. She knows everything about driving. It's very convenient for me. But sometimes I get confused. See, I don't know how I get anywhere without my helper in the car. I'd probably be bouncing off trees and buildings and stuff, but she's there to help. Like, she tells me when the light changes colors and everything. It's very convenient and helpful. Like, it's green. Thank you, helper. Because I was confused. I didn't know. Thanks, Captain Prism. She's very helpful in the car for me. I always know how fast I'm going with my helper in the car. She lets me know. You know how fast you're going? Yeah, I got a speedometer right here, but thanks for the backup. That thing ever snaps in half, I got you to back me up. When you see old guys driving 35 on the freeway, it's not because they want to, they've been trained to, for crying out loud. Their foot has been governed by a woman. You ever see like, oh, I want to go faster, I just don't think I should. I just feel like something horrible's gonna happen if I go any lower. Gonna get an ice pick in my ear hole or something bad's gonna happen, Lloyd. She's very helpful in the car. That's right. She gives me statistics when we're in the car. That's right. You know that men have the most accidents? Gee, I wonder why that is. Let me ponder that for a nanosecond. Bing! It's because the woman in the passenger side, because you always react to every little thing. And that's okay. Just don't do the noise. What was that? That was the garage door opening, sweetheart. We haven't left yet. Can you give me a change of pants before we go? These aren't going to work for the gala. I'm sorry, it was silver, it was moving. I thought it was a Volvo. I'm sorry. We were driving one night. It's like 2 o'clock in the morning. And it's just, I'm just so tired. I'm just hallucinating. My wife's just sacked out. She's got that eyelid. And we hit a bump. 2 o'clock in the morning. She goes, are you okay? Then she says this, you want me to drive? Oh, what would Jesus do? I don't think so. Oh.
Don't worry, ladies. My wife is already going to punch me in the face for that when we get home, so you're fine. If you have a Bible, why don't you turn to Exodus chapter 31. By the way, the first time we ever heard Tim Hawkins, we take our kids to a youth convention every year, and he was there one year, and I had one of the kids in my youth group actually peed their pants. They were laughing so hard. 2 of them fell out of pews. And you know when you're laughing so hard that you just don't want to laugh anymore because you think you're going to have a rib break? That's what it was like. And it was just good, clean, hilarious comedy. One of the excuses or reasons that people use for not serving is they don't believe that they have any talent or any abilities. In Exodus 31:3, it says, I have filled him with the Spirit of God in wisdom, in understanding, in knowledge, and in all kinds of craftsmanship. God was telling Moses, they were preparing to build the tabernacle. And God was telling Moses, I have given these guys certain skills. Every single one of us have certain skills and abilities that God can use. There have been studies that say the average person, not above average, just an average person has between 500 and 700 skills and abilities. I'll give you an example. How many of you, I hope you all raise your hand for this, how many of you brushed your teeth this morning? Okay. How many of you did it without poking yourself in the eye with your toothbrush? Okay, good. Most of you. So guess what? You have a skill that can be used at church. You have hand and eye coordination. You can be a greeter. You can shake people's hands without hurting the person that you're shaking the hand of. God can use you. Say, I don't like to talk. Well, that's fine. Hand out bulletins. Stand behind the greeter and hand out bulletins. But the point I'm trying to make is, you all have abilities. You all have skills, and a lot of those skills can translate directly into working in church. Another reason people give for not using is they think, okay, I'm too young. Please turn to Matthew chapter 17. This is one of my absolute favorite passages in the Bible. We're going to start at verse 24. When they came to Capernaum, Those who collected the 2 drachma tax came to Peter and said, "Does your teacher not pay the 2 drachma tax?" He said, "Yes." And when he came into the house, Jesus spoke to him first, saying, "What do you think, Simon? From whom do the kings of the earth collect customs or poll tax? From their sons or from strangers?" Jesus said to him, when Peter said from strangers, Jesus said to him that the sons are exempt. However, so that we do not offend them, go to the sea and throw in a hook and take the first fish that comes up, and when your mouth is open, you will find a shekel. Take that and give it to them for you and for me. The great thing about this, and I had no idea about this tax until we were at a youth convention and the president of Liberty Seminary was speaking. This drachma tax, by the way, it was a 2-day wage. So it was a heavy temple tax. And you only had to pay it if you were 20 and above. So you know what that means? That means, and Jesus paid for who? Him and Peter. That means the rest of the disciples were either 20 and not 21 yet, or they were teenagers. You know, that's something you don't hear a lot of. But down in chapter 18, it says, at the very beginning, it says, at that time the disciples came to Jesus. So all of the disciples were with Jesus at that time. But Jesus only had to pay for 2, for him and for Peter. So the rest of them were either 20 years old or they were teenagers. And look what they did. And they never used the excuse, "I'm too young." The Bible is absolutely filled with kids and young people who did amazing things. Daniel, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, teenagers. Timothy, teenager. David, young man, who God used in incredible, absolute incredible ways. And I know it's easy to say, well, okay, that was the Bible, you know, that was back then, you know, lots of people did lots of cool things. That doesn't really happen. That's not true. This morning I watched a video. There's a young man, his name is Austin Goodwin, something like that. He started when he was 9 years old. He started something called Hoops of Hope. And this thing has been going on for about 10 years, and it is worldwide now. Started with one kid. What they do is they go around and you collect money, and people shoot free throws. They get $1 for every free throw that they make. This last year, they took the money that they made, 75% of the money that they made was going to build a medical clinic in Zambia, Africa. 25% was sitting here in the United States. They have done things, they have built clinics for orphans who are infected with AIDS. They have done all kinds of things. Started with one 9-year-old. Most of the great revivals started, the revivals that you hear about in seminary classes, the ones that spread worldwide, were started by kids. One that swept all of Europe started when one 14-year-old girl answered a simple question in church. When somebody asked her, who will give themselves completely to God? 14-year-old girl answered and said, "I will." And it started with her, and it spread all through Europe. So, you know, I get a little annoyed sometimes because you hear people talk about teenagers, and yes, I'm a youth pastor, so I'm a little more sensitive to this. They say, well, the teenagers are the church of the future. That's wrong. They're not the church of the future. They're the church of the present. If you look at 1 year from now, our kids will be in Thailand. You know what they're going to be doing in Thailand? They're going to fly for 20 hours, locked in a plane with Chris and I, so you have to really pray for them. They're going to be going into public schools and teaching ESL, English as a Second Language. They're going to be going out in the street and handing out tracts to people and sharing their faith with people in a foreign country. They're going to be doing sports clinics, doing rec. They're going to be doing all kinds of things. But what's really cool is not one of those kids will ever be the same. And they're going to come back. We're going to spend the next year training for that. So those kids are going to be ready, willing, and able to be used right here in our own community. You are not too young. The last little excuse I want to kind of knock down today is this. People say, I don't have any training. I've never been to seminary. I don't know what to do. Turn to Acts chapter 8. And we're going to read verse 4. Therefore, those who had been scattered went about preaching the word. What that verse does not say, it does not say, therefore, those who were seminary-trained professional pastors, when they were scattered, went about preaching the word. What it says is, those who were scattered went about preaching the word. These were absolute, ordinary, run-of-the-mill, day-to-day people. They weren't pastors, they weren't teachers, they were just people. And if you look at what's going on in their life, Stephen had just been martyred. Saul, who would later come to know as Paul, was starting to attack the church, and people were just leaving. But as they went, they were sharing their faith. They may have been sharing their faith while they're running, but they were sharing their faith. And Saul was trying to kill the church, but what he did was actually just spread the church out. So you do not have to be a seminary-trained teacher to be used of God. Years ago, my wife Denise and I used to take our youth group to a youth event every year. It's called Impact Northwest. And what we did was we would go to the Portland area, and churches, youth groups from all over would come, and we'd go to Greater Gresham Baptist Church, and we slept on a floor, and we got up every morning, and we drove into Portland, and we worked for the Housing Authority of Portland. And what we did was we roofed apartment complexes. We provided all the labor, they provided all the materials. So we were at a planning meeting for Impact Northwest, and I ran a team, my wife Denise ran a team, and Denise and I were going to be at the same apartment complex working, but we were going to be doing two totally different things. I was going to be doing some landscaping. Denise got to tear down a fence and rebuild the fence. And I remember this conversation just like it was yesterday, because when she found out she was going to build a fence, she looked at John, the director, and said, John, I've never built a fence. And his response was what our response should be in church. He said, Denise, have you ever driven by a fence? And she goes, yeah. He said, well, then you're qualified. You don't have to be a seminary-trained professional for God to use you. We've got lists of things that we could use people for at Freedom House every week, and not just during the week, but after church, not just on Sunday, but during the week. What's really cool about this passage is Jesus had radically changed these people's lives, and that's all they wanted to share with people. You know, there were probably hundreds of questions that they couldn't answer. But the one thing that they could answer was, my life is different today because I came face to face with the Savior. In 2 Chronicles 16:9, I think this is my favorite verse in the Bible. It says, I had it memorized and now I just lost it. The eyes of the Lord move to and fro across the earth, and He's looking for people that He can strongly support those whose hearts are completely His. That's my paraphrase. That means that right now, God is looking to and fro across the earth, looking for people whose hearts are completely His, to use them. And you know, there is nothing more amazing than to be used by God. And once you tell God, okay, God, I'm yours, take me, God will take you and God will use you in incredible ways. You have to be perfect. You don't even have to be close to perfect. You just have to be available. So this is what I want to end with this morning. You take your spiritual gifts, you take your heart or your passion, and you take your abilities, and you mix all those things together, and you find a place to serve. God doesn't call us to a church to sit and just to sit. He may do that for a season. But when God called you, and when you became a Christian to serve. And God wants us to serve, and we have positions available. If you want to see Jim pass out, walk up to him next week after church and just say, hey, I'll do whatever. If you want to serve, we'll find a place for you. I'm going to have the ushers come forward. Hey, again, just thanks for being here, and please stay and eat.